Okay, so there are a lot of people who might have joined this for the first time, right? So let me explain them in very briefly again that what I will be doing here. I will be basically talking, two, three topics from international law. I've already finished paper one, right? I'm in part A of the paper one, right? International law, I will explain you the subtopic, right? And how to study that particular subtopic, okay? So that will be the structure of this class, okay? Those for those who are very new to this class, okay? Now, as I have already told you, I have a lot of other batches started, so I will be taking this class only on Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Okay, so let us start with the today's class, right? See, if you look at the today's topic, right? So that is topic number 3 and topic number 4 from the international law. Okay, now if you look at these two topics basically say state recognition, right, and state successor. Okay, then we have law of sea, inland water, territorial sea, contagious zone, continental self-exclusive economic zone, and high sea. Okay, so that is what the whole topic is all about, right? Now, if you look at this topic, very comprehensive in itself, right? So I don't think it need not it needs to be further elaborated, but still I will elaborate it further, right? See, if you look at this topic, one thing is absolutely clear that first you have to understand the meaning and the nature of recognition. Now, when we see the meaning of recognition, it simply means that what recognition actually, once the recognition happens, what recognition adds to a state's personality, right? So, suppose if you are a state, if you remember the Treaty of Westphalia, right? So, there are 4 things actually you need to become an international state, right? The first thing that you need is basically your population, then you need a constitution, right? Then you need a territory, and the last thing that you need is basically recognition by other person that you are a state, right? So the recognition is a thing which once a state gets, it acquires international personality. That is the meaning of actually nature of recognition. Understood that point? Okay, right? Now, when we talk about importance, so the importance of recognition is basically once you are recognized, you get automatically admitted to the members of international organization like UNO, right? Like, for the purpose of negotiating treaty that enables you to for the purpose of negotiating any treaties and etc. Okay, so it means that once you get recognition, you become politically sovereign. That is the main point, right? You become politically sovereign, and other state starts to treat you as co-equal, right? So that is the most important point. Okay, someone is again asking this PDF. I have told you that PDF now they will be sending along with the videos. Okay, so once the video will be uploaded, that I have told you each week it will be uploaded, right? Instead of daily, it will be uploaded once a week, right? So along with the video, they will also send the PDF. Okay, so not to worry at all, you will get the PDF. Okay, so that is not an issue, right? That the PDF you will get. Okay, not to worry. Now let me complete the whole syllabus. If they are not willing to provide, I will myself provide you. Okay, so that is not an issue. Okay, first let us try to understand it. Okay, then we will we will talk about that later. Okay, now then the one question that becomes very relevant in the case of recognition is basically political in nature, right? Mostly, if you look at the recognition, it is always political in nature, meaning that a country have no obligation under international law to recognize. Okay, so it means the recognition is sometimes considered as a political bullet. Once fired, cannot be taken back. It means that once you recognize someone, it is very difficult to de-recognize someone. हमारी बात clear है. However, United States practice that particular concept, but we do not practice it, right? Once we recognize it, we recognize it. That is the point. Okay, so that is the political nature. It means that there is no sovereign authority that can compel the other sovereign authority, the international states, to recognize someone. Okay, so it means it mostly remains merely a political activity. Okay, it is up to the friendly relation between the will of the state. Like for an example, when this Bangladesh was created, right? The first thing that the India did was basically recognizing Bangladesh, right? So it was recognized for the first time. If you will see Khalistan movement, the Pakistan actually recognized Bangladesh as soon as the Khalistan, they announced that we want to have a separate country. But no other country recognized Khalistan. Understood that particular point? Okay, it means that it remains a political, act of a sovereign state. All this. Okay, whatever the international law may say, it remains a political act, right? So that is one fundamental point that you have to understand. Okay. Now, if you look at the second point of recognition is basically it's different theories, right? You must be, you must have studied, or if you have not studied, you should study. There are different theories related to recognition. Okay, we have declarative theory, we have non-declarative theory, right? So multiple theories and their relative merits and criticism. That is actually the most important point: the merit and criticism. Okay, it means what is the merit of a particular theory, what is the demerit of a particular theory. Okay, so the best thing about that, you cite the name of certain jurists. Okay, this jurist said this jurist said this. Okay, so that is a very, prepare a very simple note. These are the three or four type of theories related to recognition and certain views about multiple jurists. Right? At least if you can, come up with 2-3 jurist viewpoint for different theories of recognition, that will more than sufficient. Okay, so do not read more than that. Right? If you start reading, it will be endless exercise. Then the legal effect of recognition. What happens when you are recognized, right? So the first effect I have already told you in the importance part itself, right? That is, you acquire international personality, you become politically sovereign, right? Enable it. It enables you to go into treaty with another party, right? Or it also gives you the right of the predecessor state. Okay, that is why you will see that state succession is written with a state recognition, right? Suppose India was divided into Pakistan and India. Then if Pakistan is recognized as a sovereign state, then what happens that whatever the rights and duties that the predecessor state have, the newly recognized country gets the same right. Okay. Yes, right to sue and right to be sued, that is very correct. Okay. Once you acquire international personality, automatically you get this right to sue. So understood. Quite simple point here, right? Similarly, different type of recognition. Now, this is something which is repeated every time. This year also there was a question, what is the difference between de facto and de jure recognition? This time also there was a question. Okay, so it means that every time there is a question with regard to de facto and de jure recognition, you have to point to the difference, practically, as kids used to do, right? Make 2 paragraphs and write the division between them. Okay, so that is actually the most important thing that you should, the most easiest question, I must add, most easiest question. Then you will go to the form of recognition, right? Form and type of recognition is different thing. Form is basically express and implied recognition. Okay, so form is basically the way in which the recognition shall be granted. De facto and de jure is the type of recognition, right? It is the end of the form. So clear hai? Okay, so we will talk about form I have given in the notes as well. Then what modes the country generally adopt and what the mode India actually adopts, right? So India adopts de facto, de jure, or which form India adopts, right? It means either India adopt for this express form of recognition or implied form of recognition. Okay, so that is the second point that you have to study in this. Okay, so please remember that. Then the concept of withdrawal of recognition. You can recognize the state can be withdrawn. Okay, once a state have recognized some other state, can it lead to withdrawal? Okay, do international law allow withdrawal of the recognition? That is the point, right? Now, if you will look at it, you will see that no, that is not allowed. Okay, so because it is a political act, so it is very, very tough to de-recognize a particular state. Even if you de-recognize, like in the case of Palestine, you must have seen that Israel is not recognizing the state of Palestine, but still, the act of de-recognition do not, sort of abolishes the existence of a state. Even if you de-recognize a particular state, still the state exists. That is the fundamental point. Even if you de-recognize a particular state, then also the state will exist. Okay. Then the question comes: can recognition be withdrawn? The answer is yes, it can be withdrawn, but that will not lead to a non-existence of that particular state. Okay. So it means, जैसे मैंने पहले बताया, recognition is sort of a bullet. Once recognized, it is very tough to de-recognize. Even if you de-recognize, but still for some of the purpose, the recognition still happens. It means that suppose you are a state, sovereign state, right? And you went into a treaty with the other state, right? Now at the time of going into treaty, you have determined that recognition of the next state, the other party state. Now suppose if you de-recognize that state, that doesn't mean that you can violate the treaty. So even if the state is de-recognized by you, still the responsibility and right exist, continue to subsist, right? Meaning the final argument shall be that even the de-recognition of the state, or even if you de-recognize a particular state, it will not amount to seizing the existence of that particular state. Understood? There is a doctrine that you cannot be allowed to take benefit of your own wrong. तो आप ये करेंगे, किसी स्टेट को रिकॉग्नाइज कर देंगे, ट्रीटी कर लेंगे, जब आपकी बारी आएगी तो आप de-recognize कर देंगे, right? So that is not okay. Equity and good conscience denotes that is not allowed, and we have seen in the international law, equity and good conscience is a part of customary international, right? So that is not allowed actually. Okay. Now again, the water is murky. Sometimes they allow, sometimes they do not allow, right? For smaller states they allow. Okay. Then a very interesting concept, that what is the difference between recognition of the government and recognition of incident. Like suppose tomorrow in Kashmir, Suppose Pakistan recognizes the government of Kashmir as independent sovereign. Now the question is that does it mean the same thing that the Pakistan have recognized Kashmir as an independent country, or the Pakistan have only recognized insurgency, right? So recognizing insurgency and recognizing government is a different aspect, right? Different thing. There have been a question in UPSC directly with regard to this. Okay, in paper one, in part two of part B of the paper one, there have been questions into UPSC multiple times. But what is the difference between recognition of government and recognition of insurgency? Okay, so I will suggest you please look at that in very detail. Right, there is a very much difference between them. Okay, one will not amount to other. Right, that is actually the main point. Then you'll come to law of C. Now there I think I have missed this state succession, right? So there are some few points in state succession also that I should have added, but I missed it. Suppose see, in state succession, basically one thing is recognized that succession, in the case of state succession, what are the rights and responsibility in 4 cases you recognize of the successor state, right? In the case of property, if the property is situated abroad, what will be the rights and duties of the successor state? In the case of treaty obligation, in case of archives, archives को लेकर काफी झगड़ा होता है. Like India Pakistan was divided and Pakistani people were wanting the archive of All India Radio. So can that All India Radio be claimed by the Pakistan? Right? So archive is a very important. The records are very important, right? And the last is with respect to trade and payments. Okay, suppose a payment had been pending with a particular bank to a sovereign state. Now, in the meanwhile, the state was divided into 2 parts, right? So, which successor state will get that particular payment, or the right of lien, which particular successor state has? Okay, that particular point has to be understood. Okay, so in succession, just read these 4 points. Apart from that, nothing is needed at all. Okay, yes. Then we will come to law of C. Now, law of C is a very larger topic, obviously, right? But I have pinpointed some of the important topics that you can study. Now, if you look at the law of C, the syllabus itself is very large. Okay, clearly you can see law of sea, inland water, territorial sea, contiguous zone, continental self-exclusive economic zone, and high sea. Right now, what actually you have to do that you have to practically read the unclosed provision, and a bare reading has to be done of each and every chapter. Okay, I know it is a very tedious exercise, but you have to do it. Go through the bare readings, go through all the unclosed provision, and these unclosed provision basically you will see that each chapter is basically these, I see exclusive economic zone, continental self. Right now, each chapter have around 20 to 30 articles, right? So sometime in UPSC directly a question comes that write a short note on continental self, right? So whatever thing that is to be known about continental self, you will find in that particular document. Okay, so I will suggest you that you please go and read unclosed documents, right? Which unclosed document you have to read, I will talk about it, not to. Okay, so please have a bare reading of it. Okay, very important. Do not read it from book. Have a bare reading from the unclosed itself. Okay, then go through different zones and their territorial limits. There have been multiple time question on territorial limits, especially with respect to content, right? Anglo-Norwegian fisheries case, we will see also Anglo-Norwegian fisheries case is a very important case actually, right? Then the principles on which they are determined, whether the customary law will be followed or the treaty law will be followed. Equidistance principle will be followed or the historical perspective will be followed. Okay, so each and every theories or each and every process through which the territorial limit is determined. एक तो आपके अनक्लॉज में लिखा है कि this is the way you will determine your territorial limit. एक जो है अनक्लॉज के बाहर भी लिखा हुआ है कि in what way you will determine the territorial limit. So हमारी बात ये according to the case law. Okay, so you have to go through those case law as well. Okay. I will let me first. No, Mr. ABCD, what is your name? I've told you to change your name from next time. That is a very bad thing. Okay, you please change your name, then come to class. Okay. Now I know you were not there, right? So once this will be uploaded, please see that. Okay. Now let us come to the last. That is number 8. Seat, mode, and institution of dispute redressal mechanism. Right now, UNCLOS provides for dispute resolution mechanism. Okay, especially in the case of international seabed, right? There is international seabed authority, and there have been a direct question on international seabed authority. There have been a direct question on international seabed authority, right? So you have to talk about those institutions. Now, what mode basically they come up with? Now, when I see seat, it is basically jurisdiction. Okay, what kind of jurisdiction they have? Okay, does they have automatic jurisdiction, or the state has to submit before these institutions in order to solve the law of sea cases? Okay, like especially with respect to India, right? India and Bangladesh had a in Permanent Court of Arbitration (PCA), they applied for law of sea. They submitted. There was a dispute with regard to demarcation of territorial boundary. Maritime boundary. Right. So Bangladesh and India submitted themselves to the PCA, and finally the award was given in the favor of Bangladesh. Still, India accepted. Okay, so that is a very good thing actually, right? That should be done obviously. That gives more strength to international law. Actually. That is a very good thing. Then the last thing that you need to study in these areas, right? ये जो पांचों हैं, inland territorial seas, सब में आप क्या पढ़ेंगे? Rights and duties of all the states, right? Be very specific. एक notes बनाइए, उसमें लिखिए territorial sea rights and duties of two type of state. ये जरूर लिखिए. Two type of state. एक तो neighboring, जिसका ये है, और एक third party state. Okay, so you have to study the rights and duties of neighboring state and the rights and duties of third party states. Okay, so practically pinpoint it. You will see there is a very, very simple and direct question. What is the rights and duties of third party state in territorial water? Simple question, right? So there are 5, 6, 7 rights and duties, right? So you have to practically write that all down and make pinpoint notes with regard to it. Okay, that will be more than sufficient. So understood? Now someone is saying repeat 5. See, this will be uploaded again. Okay, and even if you don't understand, you can personally email me and I will try to reply to that. Okay, Mr. ABC and Mr. Bhavi. Okay, please do that. Okay, now let us come to case law, right? And certain notes. So I have given, in case of recognition, basically I have given you certain definition. Okay, so let us read that particular definition. According to Philip Jesser, recognition means an existing state acknowledges the political entity, right? Politically sovereign, okay? Political entity of another state by overt and covert act, express or implied. Okay? So express recognition can be there, implied recognition can be there, okay? It may be noted that the recognition is neither a contractual agreement nor a political concession. It is a declaration of existence of a certain fact. Okay? It means if you do not recognize a particular state, that doesn't mean that the state do not exist. It means you are practically recognizing something which is already existing. That is actually the fundamental point. That you are recognizing something which is already existing, right? It is already there, right? You are doing nothing new. Okay, so that is the one point that you have to keep in mind, right? Then Montevideo Convention, you read that convention because this convention has to be cited when there is any question with regard to recognition. Okay, so I have given this convention, read that down. Not an issue here. Then you will see the form of recognition I have talked about. One is the express, second is the implied, right? Now you also go into detail that what is the meaning of implied. Implied means that suppose you are visiting a foreign country and you are meeting with a head of a state of another country and you have not recognized the head of a state of that particular country. It means you are impliedly recognizing. Express means you have come up with certain notification, you have come up with certain statute, right? In fact, you have certain resolution in your parliament, right? So those sort of action leads to express, recognition. Okay, India practices express recognition. Remember that, right? So that is a very important point, right? India practices express recognition. Okay, impliedly we do not practice. Similarly, let us come to law of sea. Now, law of sea, I have told you, I have given later on. So these are the 4 conventions that you have to study. Convention related to continental shelf, convention related to fishing and conservation of living resources, maritime. It is basically, high sea. It is actually applicable to both high sea, territorial water. It is applicable to continental shelf. Right? It talks about mostly maritime resources. Okay. Then convention related to high sea, territorial water, and contiguous. Now, sometime in high sea, there is a philosophical type of question as well, right? Like high sea is a lawless region, and UNCLOS governs it. Okay, it means that you have to write that how high sea is the most important part of international trade. You must be knowing, as a UPSC aspirant, you must have studied it that 98% of the trade by volume all over the world passes through high sea, right? So high seas, practically it is lawless. The only law that applicable in the high seas is basically UNCLOS, provision of UNCLOS, right? UNCLOS provision actually helps in determining or strengthening the international trading network as well, right? So that is important for the purpose of economic integration of the world as well, okay, or economic security of the world as well, okay? So that philosophical aspect also the law of sea has to be studied, right? Because I have told you in UPSC, they do not ask you direct question as they ask in judiciary, right? Sometimes they talk about philosophical aspect of a particular question. Okay, so please read that up. Then this is the routine detail about clause provision, etc. Right? Same thing, conventions, right? Now, in the case of one case, actually, I have put up, right, that I will tell you is basically Anglo-Norwegian fisheries case. Okay, Norway and UK, they are basically neighbors. You must have seen the boundary, right? So what happened that the Norway used to fish up to a particular length, and UK did not allow Norway to fish to a particular length. Now the question arose that which formula shall be followed for determining this boundary of continental shelf, right? So UK allows that baseline formula should be followed because that is a part of international law. Norway said that no, historically, as a part of customary law, the UK have indirectly recognized that up to here I can, fish. Now the court held that yes, the Norway is right and awarded the Norway the right to fish in that particular area of continental shelf. Okay, it means the territorial limit of continental shelf, right? Now that gives a very unique point here is that a state line system can be used on the basis of geographic, economic, and historic aspect. Okay, so if we have a customary international law, and when we have a treaty provision, express treaty provision, so in the absence of customary international law, the treaty provision will apply. So if we have a customary international law, it have been properly recognized by both the parties, then treaty provision won't apply. Okay, so that is a very unique point of law that was decided in Norway fisheries. International Court of Justice actually decided this case in 1951, right? So that is a very important case. ICJ also decided our Kulbhushan Jadhav case. Okay, that we will talk about in the next class, right? And we will talk about the jurisdiction over individual. Okay, that we will talk about. Now let us come to the previous year paper. We have only 5 papers. Today I will discuss only 5 questions. Okay, not more than that. I told you I have certain other works as well, right? So I will be keeping this brief. See, let us come to question number 1, right? Very simple question. Define and distinguish between recognition of a state and recognition of government. That is something which I discuss itself, right? Then de facto and de jure recognition. Okay, very simple question. That is why I say that in international law, it is very easy to score high marks, right? Just what you have to do that you have to know the right thing that has to be studied with respect to previous subject. ठीक है, तो अगर ये 5 क्वेश्चन भी इसमें आप कर लें तो एटलीस्ट इसमें से 2 क्वेश्चन आने जा रहे हैं, ठीक है ना? एंड दैट इज ट्रू फॉर एवरी टाइम. Okay, that is true for every time. This year also there was a question between differentiate between de facto and de jure, right? So that is something very easy. Then the state becomes an international person through recognition only and exclusively. Discuss is there any duty of under international law to recognize a particular state? तो पहला statement actually गलत है, right? कि recognition may grant you political sovereignty, but it do not mean that the absence of recognition state do not exist. See the definition of Joseph Philip. क्या कह रहा है वो? कि recognition basically recognize existence of a certain fact. It means the fact have already existed. ठीक है, तो recognition is not doing something new. Okay, so the first statement is wrong, right? You have to argue in that way, and then you will write that there is no duty, right? You will cite certain conventions and you will say it is mostly a political process, right? So the state have no duty to recognize another state at all. Okay, हालांकि now the new norms of international law say that okay, if you are a member of a international organization and some other state becomes part of that international organization and you do not object, it will amount to implied recognition. खासकर यूनाइटेड नेशन का अगर कोई पार्ट बनता है, right? Like Taiwan have recently applied to WHO to become a member. Now, if WHO allows Taiwan to become a member, then it means that China have indirectly identified Taiwan as a recognized country. Okay. Now, obviously, China will not do that, but if they does, that can be done. Okay. So that example, current affair example, actually, you can cite it to answer, right? That is very important. Then, recognition of a state is not a legal but political action. Again, the same question, the argument will be same, right? So I don't think it needs to be discussed. Similarly, function, power, and jurisdiction of International Tribunal of Law of Sea, right? Last year also this was repeated. 2 years back also this was repeated. 2013 also this same question, exact same question came. What you have to do? You have to see practically convention related to it and simply read, okay, what is the jurisdiction, what is the power, what is the function. So at least if you could recognize, 3 to 4 points out of everything, that will be more than sufficient. So okay, so again it remains a very, very easy thing to study. And then the last question number 5, explain the rights and duties of coastal state, that I referred neighboring state, that is the coastal state, over continental shelf, exclusive economic zone and high sea. See, वो जो आप notes बनाएंगे, continental shelf boundary, meaning rights and duties of neighboring state, that is your coastal state and third party state. वो जो 5 टॉपिक है उसके बारे में ये 3 चीजें आपको याद रखनी है. Just make it clear cut notes with regard to it. Or as it is, you have to practically copy and paste in your exam. Clear him? Understood? Okay. Now I will take some certain questions, right? What question you would like? I would like you to write this question number 2. Okay. So next time submit it. Now only one kid has submitted me the last year paper. I think Sivangi Misra, I suppose she have submitted it. But that I will check. On Tuesday. Okay, because there's only one copy. I will check on Tuesday. Okay. Right now I'm not checking any copy. Okay. Right. Yes. So any further question if you have, you can ask me, or otherwise we can wind it up. I have told you today I will take only half an hour. That's all. Yes, anyone? Any question? Please go ahead. Do ask. Yes, Darsa Vardhan, please go ahead.
Sir,
Yes,
hello.
please.
Sir,
Hmm.
should I read this
Could you speak
topic
little
from?
louder? I cannot hear you.
Sir, do you want me to read from this Stark book only, or I have one more like Maclom book? Uh,
Yeah, any standard textbook have same knowledge, right? But just
okay,
pinpoint that there are certain things only that need to be studied.
okay.
Okay, do not start reading the whole book. That will lead to a disaster practically.
The specified points in the list given here in the PDF, I should read only these
Only those
topics from
points. Yes.
Stark book. Is enough.
Very good. Very good. Now I cannot claim that I know everything, right? But what I have done here is that at least 80% of the question you will be able to attend. Okay.
Okay,
So what you do actually that apart from this, you also look at the previous year paper, apply your own judgment as well, and you think that okay, some point have been missed, add that down. Add that down.
from online
Okay.
other materials.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bilkul.
thank you, sir.
That will be correct. Okay. Recognition of government. Government means recognition of a system or recognition of a political system which is a product of a written document. Right. That is actually the meaning of government. Again, the government is of two types: government in territory and government in exile. Like Tibetan. Tibetan, we have a government in exile in India. Okay, so that is the difference between them. The state is recognized automatically. Government is recognized by the yes. That is also very 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 true. Very very true. How many marks? I have told you every answer you write for 20 marks, right? 2 pages around, 2.5 pages. Okay? Chaliye, let us wind it up. I have only half hour time for today. Let us meet on Tuesday. Tuesday we will have a longer class. Okay? Right? So thank you very much for today. Let us meet on Tuesday. Okay? Yes, everyone?